Hey everyone, and welcome back. Before you watch this walkthrough, make sure that you pause the video and try the problem yourself. Even a partial attempt will make the explanation that much more useful. These videos are meant to support your problem-solving process, not replace it. Across a lot of my practice problems, I highlight different aspects of how to approach, break down, and reason through problems. So you're going to get the best benefit by watching multiple walkthroughs rather than treating any single one of my videos as a template that you can copy. With that, let's get started. Today's practice problem is going to be all about a linear search. This should be a really quick, straightforward video for us by this point in our course. If you're watching this earlier on, that's okay too, of course. The problem space is as follows. Search an array of names, so a bunch of strings, for a target name, and we will print whether it's found and its index. So over in my example, I've got Alice, Shaheen, Connor, and Kwame searching for Alice. And then we also have Alice, Shaheen, Connor, and Kwame searching for Mustafa. We'll see in our output that the index of Alice is 0, since the name Alice is found in the 0th spot. And we will find that the index of Mustafa is -1, which indicates it was not found at all. This works exactly like index of works on our strings, only we're going to write our own. So let's move over to our code. I've already created my main here. I don't have anything in it, of course, but we can start by defining ourselves that string array of names that we might be looking for. And let's use the exact same array that we just saw in our example. So for example, we'll have our new string array. We will do Alice, like this, Shaheen, Connor, and Kwame. All right. And if we want to make sure that our array is going to look the way we expect it to, we can always add a very quick print function that we can use. So public static void print, pass in our array. And for each value in our array, let's just print it out all on the same line. Seems fine. If we want to do this so that it prints somewhat nicely, actually, we can go from 0 to the array.length, I++. We'll start our print off with an open bracket here, and we'll finish ourselves off with a closed bracket at the bottom. And then in here, we'll just print out each name, array at I. And if we are not on the last element, so as long as I is less than array.length -1, we can include a print with a comma and a space. All right, we can make sure that just this works. So we can pop down here and compile our code. Perfect. And just run it out and see that we're going to get exactly what we expect. So we know we have a working print. We have an array set up as we expect it to. And now we can do our find. So what we're going to look for is an index. We're going to write a find method that takes in the name. And also, let's just make a variable up here, string target. And our first example was Alice. So we'll take in that target. And we can go ahead and write that function. Let's move the print and put it right here. So public static int find, we'll take in our string array and our string target. Now linear search is as straightforward as it comes. Similar to our print, we need to look at each element. If we find the value target at position I, return position I, else keep looking. And if we never find it, we return a -1. So that's just sort of the general outline of what we're going to try to do here. And because we're going to have some good programming standards, since we have a return type right here, we're going to make a variable of that return type. So found index. And we understand that we basically can look through our entire array and either find it or never find it. If we never find it, we want our value to be -1. We should start with our integer being -1 to avoid needing an if-else statement here. Now, we could go through each element all the way to the end. Once we find it, set the value. But if there are duplicates, we may not find the first value. And while nowhere does it say in the question that we should be returning the first value if they are not unique names, that's typically how these functions work unless otherwise specified. So rather than just letting this run a for loop from 0 all the way to the end, we want to stop running this loop once we find our match. So let's add a variable here for position is 0. We're going to walk our way through our array, and while our position is less than our array.length and our found index is less than 0, we want to keep going. And now what will happen is if we find it, the found index will become 0 or greater, and this will break out. Or we'll reach the end and our position will equal our array length, and we will also break out. So while both of those things are true, let's keep going. If the array at spot 0, and we'll do it with .equalsIgnoreCase just to catch case sensitivity, we can go ahead and say our found index will be equal to our position. Now, regardless of whether it's found or not found, we need to increment that position to walk along our array. Now we'll break out of our array, our while loop one way or another, and we can return our found index. So having done all of this, we can now go ahead and print out target. Let's do it with a printf actually. So we can say target value. What are we looking for? We can put it in right there. And then we can also say index and put the index that may or may not exist right there. With those two things in place, oh, and we're going to want a %n for that new line. We can go ahead and type target and index and print all of this out. We'll compile, we'll run our code, and we'll see that we did find Alice in position 0. Now, just like our example output, it's good to test a few different things here. So let's go ahead and test for Mustafa. Make sure that that one works. Make sure we get a -1 since they are not in our list. Perfect, that's what we got. And it's also a good idea to test potentially other edge cases. So for example, let's make sure that that last element isn't accidentally skipped by accident. Do we find Kwame? Now check this out right here. Our target value is staying as -1, even though that person, Kwame, is in our list. Let's go take a look at our code and figure out why that might be happening. So when we look through our find code, we realize quite quickly, I hope, that we were always comparing our array to the same position for our target. So even as we moved through our array, just by doing one more check here, we were able to actually see, oh, we accidentally hard-coded a 0. That's not what we intended. What we intended was to go through each position in our array. So this is why even when our code seems like it's working, it's always a really good idea for us just to run a couple of extra test cases. Now we can see that we are getting the correct output when Kwame is entered. And once again, we can just make sure that this works in our other scenarios to be nice and thorough. Alice works as expected. And let's make sure that this change didn't somehow mean that we are finding Mustafa in a list where they don't exist. There we go. We can see now all of our different test cases work, and we can be a lot more confident that our code is going to solve the problem in various additional cases now that we've sort of looked at a few different values within here. But that's really all there is for a linear search function. That's it, and now we've solved this problem. Now remember, you won't find my solution posted alongside this video. If you watch the walkthrough without first attempting the problem, stop here, close my solution, and try to write it yourself now. Post-walkthrough practice still counts. If you have questions about this problem or suggestions for future practice videos, please be sure to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.